Okay, this is Kimberly Selchin with Tutor Doctor of Phoenix, Scottsdale, and East Valley. And today we have Vicki DeLuzio. She is a homeschool mom, started as a public school mom, then became a homeschool mom, then went back, and she's made a couple of transitions. So she's got a very cool story. And we've had several questions from clients that are looking to get tutoring and considering should they be doing private school, should they be doing online public school, maybe they want to delve into homeschooling themselves. So I thought it's best, let's just talk to somebody who knows all of those different aspects. So Vicki, I'm going to have you take the stage. We've got a bunch of slides that you'll go through, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end.
Thank you so much, Kim. Okay, so I am going to take it over and let's see, share my screen. Oh, I don't have the screen sharing. All right, so can you get me the screen sharing by chance? Yeah, okay.
Do you see it on your end? You're set up to be able to share.
Okay, there we go. Can everyone see the screen now? It should say homeschooling or school at home. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so is it homeschooling or school at home? And I am Vicki DeLuzio, and I run a blog called Surprise Easy Mom. This is my family. My husband is the tall one. And then I have 3 children, Munchie, who's 10, Giggles, 8, and Dimples, 7. Those aren't actually their real names. I have like little names for them, and they're just like little monikers because a lot of people know who they are in the community. We're originally from Connecticut. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor in early education and in communication. And I worked in the juvenile court as a store manager at Target, and then as a mom and a veteran wife. My husband was actually deployed when my son was born. He was born and my husband then had to deploy. So we had a crazy time when my littlest one was just born. So when my oldest was just born, excuse me. So I've been through the rigmarole of having a husband deployed with a baby. So if you're facing any of that, I can totally sympathize with you. There is a difference between homeschooling and schooling at home. So the Arizona statute is homeschooling means a non-public school conducted primarily by the parent, guardian, or other person who has custody of the child, or non-public instruction provided in the child's home. So you need to sign an affidavit of intent to homeschool. So that is actually a 1-page paper that says that you're going to take control of your child's education. And that needs to be signed at the child's 6th birthday or when you pull the child out of public school. So if you are deciding to pull your child out, they need to do that. You do not actually formally have to educate your child until 8, but you need to sign the affidavit that says that you are going to start them at 8, but you have to still submit that to the county that your child lives in, and in Maricopa County, that would be where I'm guessing most people are from. That's at 4041 South Central Avenue in Phoenix. Right now, you have to call ahead to make an appointment. You can't just walk down there because they are not taking walk-ins because of COVID. You can send in your affidavit. You do need to have the child's original birth certificate with that. You cannot have a copy, and you have to have the document notarized. If you go down there, you also have to have your ID with that as well. So the difference between homeschooling and schooling at home, schooling at home is public schooling and charters at home still use public funds, and there's no need to sign the affidavit. Where homeschooling, you are using your own funds. You still are paying your taxes, but you are then paying for your child's education. The benefits of public school online. Everyone in your district is accepted. They are mandated to give you what you need. There are no costs other than taxes. Transitioning back to the school will most likely be seamless. School work is set and picked out for the students. So as a parent, you are not having to come up with what schoolwork your child will have to do. You will be in the district you are set for. Most times, other than open choice, because Arizona is an open choice state. Open choice, if you're not familiar with that, you can apply to go to a school that is other than the school that you are districted for. I don't know how that is working right now with COVID. So if that's something that you're interested in, you would have to go to Open Choice Arizona. I believe that's .org. You can look that up. If you Google Open Choice Arizona, you can find a lot of information about that. And you would have to apply to go to a school that is out of your district. So that is one thing if you are looking to do public school online. The benefits of charter schools. The online charter schools usually have their own proprietary systems. And they have done online before. So that's your Arizona Connections Academy and K-12. And there's many, many others. Schoolwork is set and picked out for the students. There's no need to fill out the affidavit. Taxes paid for charter. So I have 2 stars here. And there's a reason for that. Sometimes there are additional costs. If your child goes to a full day program, there may be additional costs, like Legacy Traditional School. They have an additional cost for full day compared to half day. There's also sometimes additional costs for music classes and for other things. So make sure if you decide to enroll for a charter, you know what those additional costs are. They usually do have a lot of fundraisers, so that's something else to look out for. Online charter schools usually have a way for parents and students to connect virtually, and they usually have a streamlined process to connect with parents too. So that's something for a benefit of the charter schools. So online accreditation for charter and private schools, this is very important as a lot of schools may be popping up and you want to make sure that the charter school that you are looking for is an accredited school, especially if you have a child who is in high school. If they are going to be looking at going into the military or going into college, you want to make sure that they are an accredited school. So advanced ED, so advanced is one accreditation, and on here you can see the different places you can check out the accreditation. So we have accreditedschools.online.org, and then each state also has their own ade.az.gov charter schools search site list. So you can check out, oops, sorry about that. You can check out all of the different ones that are in Arizona that are accredited for charter schools. In order to earn the advanced Ed Performance Accreditation, they have different policies, they have to have different reviews, and they have to engage in continuous improvement. So charter schools also do have standardized testing. The benefits of private schools, generally smaller classes, higher academic standards. Parents can petition for things to be changed, like curriculum. There's a strong sense of community available. The scholarships can be available. More funds can be available. And going back to the previous slide, you would want to check on the accreditation for the schools. You would also want to check the private school in person and speak to prior students and parents before you jump into that, because of course it is quite a significant investment if you do a private school. There's a ton of different accreditations across the country if that's something that you're looking to move across the country, but I won't talk about that because I think we're really looking at Arizona here. There's also privateschoolreview.com, so if that's something that you're looking at, a private school, that's something that you might want to take a look at. The benefit of homeschooling. There's no need to keep attendance in Arizona. So if you want to have the morning half day or you want to skip a couple days, that's okay here in Arizona. But if you are a high schooler, you do need to make sure that your kids are doing everything that they need if they're going to college or are going into the military. So there are things that you need to do if you are doing that. We'll get into more of that later. You can pick the curriculum and the days that you want to do homeschooling, and you can school year-round or not. And there's just one form that you have to fill out to homeschool. You are in charge of teaching your child, and you are considered the main teacher for your child. You can hire a tutor like Tutor Doctor for the things that you need assistance with. However, you cannot hire a teacher or teach your child in a group of children for everything. So that is a little bit different for homeschooling. The drawbacks of public school online. It's not always on your schedule. I know a lot of the public schools have released their schedules, so you might have already seen this. Tech crashes can keep students from learning. Last year, they all were using Schoology as one of the things for the technology, and so was the rest of the country. And Schoology crashed because they weren't expecting so many people on their servers. The public schools have to do state testing if it's required. I don't know how that's going to work out this year, but if state testing is required, public schools have to do them. Zoom classes can become noisy and overwhelming. There is school choice, but once again, we're not sure if how that's going to work. And there are 230 school districts in Arizona, and you can find yours at azed.gov, and parents are kind of forced, parents are working and they're forced into working their schedule around this. So that might be a little bit of a rough situation if you're a working parent. The drawbacks of a charter and charter online. You have to apply for charter schools. And are they an online only, or do they have a regular in-person school, and how does that balance out? Are you going to be able to transition back to a school, or are you on your own for socialization? Time frames to do work. Some are very strict on what the time frames are, and some are very loose that you can wait until the end of the semester to get everything done. Not all teachers in charter schools are certified. Charter schools do have to still do state testing, and that does mean that the apprentice schools, they are under a charter. Some people do not realize this, but they do have to do state testing as well. And charters, of course, do have extra fees that may not be included. The drawbacks of homeschooling. You need to fill out the affidavit to homeschool and send in with a birth certificate to your county education office, but you only have to do this one time unless you take your kids in and out of public school like we did. There's no tax deduction in Arizona. You pay for all of the supplies for education. You are responsible for coming up with your entire plan for educating your child. In high school, you need to make sure that they have enough of the right courses to get a high school diploma, and you need to keep a record for this to go to college. You create their whole transcript, so that can be a little overwhelming. HSLDA, that's the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, has all the info for which states have stipend programs. Arizona does not have a tax deduction, but there's a stipend, which is the ESA, which we will get into in a minute. Drawbacks of private schools. I'm pretty sure everyone can agree with cost on that one. There are about 34,576 private schools in the United States. That was amazing to me that there's that many. And 78% of them are religious. 529 savings plans can be used, but you would want to talk to a tax consultant. I am not, so don't talk to me about that. H&R Block suggests opening an educational savings account if you are looking into doing something like that when your children are very young. Availability can be a little bit rough if you are looking for a private school because they're not always readily available. The staff is not always certified. Online options are not always available. They might not have special education programs, and there's not usually any tax breaks unless ESA funds are used, and we'll talk a little bit more about the ESA funds. So how are you feeling so far? Maybe a little overwhelmed, so make sure you have some, you're saving some questions for later. I know I'm running through this really quick, so we have plenty of time for questions. So the ESA, I know a lot of people have a question about this. So the Empowerment Scholarship Account Program. So this is opting out of public school. Applicants can seek alternative service such as private schools, home-based education, tutoring, or therapies using state funds. So the ESA cannot provide advice or guidance to families regarding schools, programs, or service providers. So when you apply for the ESA, you can't say, and who do I use? They cannot tell you. You are kind of on your own when you go and apply for an ESA. There are a lot of requirements, and it is more stringent than a regular homeschool. And you don't, when you apply for the ESA, you actually don't use the affidavit of homeschooling. So there's another little quirk to this. Who is eligible? Preschool students, K-12 student with a disability, a student with a parent who is active duty military, a student with a parent who was killed in the line of duty, a student with a parent who is legally blind, deaf, or hard of hearing, student who attends a D or F rated school, a student who resides within a Native American reservation, a student is a sibling of a current or previous recipient, a student was a ward of a court, so they could have been adopted, student was a previous ESA recipient, and there is a 100-day thing where the child had to be in school for 100 days of the previous school year other than preschool. So that's another little quirk to this system that I found out since I wrote this up. So make sure if you're applying for this that you know that. And the tutoring is also really a great thing, so you can check out Tutor Doctor for that too, because that is a great thing if you are uncertain of where your kid might need help. So that is a lot of information about the ESA. Your child's rights with an IEP. So I know a lot of parents are really struggling if they have a child who has an individual education plan and they are wondering how this is going to work with their child who is maybe only getting online services. So if your child is going to a public school, your IEP should still be accommodated. So in Arizona, I have this really long link. So this should be updated continually. So if you have a chance and you can write that down, or if you need that written down in the links, we can put that down later. And then nationwide, there's also another another link. First, you want to talk to the teachers to see what can first be done and kind of go up the ladder. And then if your child is autistic, there's great autism networks across the country and in the Phoenix area. So your child still deserves the specialty care that they should be getting at school. And so they just keep on pushing forward with that IEP. So the individual education plan is a legal document, and so the schools are supposed to keep on going with your child's education. Now, onto homeschooling. How do you choose a curriculum? So do you pick all-in-one or pick and choose? So there's boxed curriculum that you can get everything in one big package, or you can get a little bit of this or in a little bit of that. So the all-in-one curriculum believes that your kids are all on one grade level, so that you're assuming that kids are all on the same math, reading, spelling, and it's all the same. But if your child might be a little bit higher with math and a little bit lower with reading, you might be better with the pick and choose system. Kathy Duffy Reviews is one great place that you can take a look at a ton of different curriculum that she's reviewed. There's also a lot of different other websites. Study.com is another one. My Father's World, Moving Beyond the Page, Easy Peasy, Bookshark, Sunlight. Some of these are biblically based and some are secular. A lot of companies did start out being religious, so if that's not for you, just be aware. They usually do put it very blatantly out there. They usually say their mission site on the website. Piecemeal curriculum, which is what we do in our home, so it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We use math UC, spelling UC, Spectrum workbooks. McGraw-Hill is a publisher. There's Teachers Pay Teachers, which is a website, and you can download free worksheets and you can pay for a worksheet or two. There's education.com. Evan Moore creates workbooks. There are tons of different workbooks you can get, and Kathy Duffy Reviews also has a lot of piecemeal homeschooling options too. So how do you know if you're teaching on grade level? So mastery of information is super important. So we, in our family, I don't really believe that we should push towards making sure they're on a grade level, but we do take a look at the standards so that I know that we are kind of flitting around what we should be teaching, but we want to make sure that the kids really have a good basis of understanding. And that's where a good tutor could come in handy as well. And if you are interested in the core, in the standards, you can take a look at the azed.gov. And of course, again, if your child is in high school, you need to keep a transcript. And you can Google a transcript to fill in as well. So we really like to make everything personalized. So we just really want to make sure that we are making sure that the kids are taking their time, understanding what they're doing. You can do standardized testing if that's something that you're interested in, but homeschoolers don't need to do standardized testing. But if you're interested to see how your kids are ranking against others, Covenant Homeschool Resource Center has done them. HSLDA also has information, and you can Google other online ways of doing standardized testing too, if that's something that you're interested in. Slide, if your child is interested in going into the military, you definitely want to make sure that your child is ready for that with a good transcript. And some recruiters don't understand the homeschool laws. My husband was in the military, and he can almost speak to that because he had to do a little bit of recruiting. So I did put in this little link here about the HR 3616, and kids do have to take tests to enter the military. It's just a standardized entry thing. They have to do this basic knowledge thing, and it's something that they'll have to get through, but kids can enter the military even if they've been homeschooled. So if that's something, a career path that your child has been interested in, they can still do that. Co-ops. So a lot of people are interested in co-ops, but they might not understand completely what a co-op is. And so it's when parents come together to teach children or have someone else teach, but the parent is still the main teacher of the student. So that still goes back to the Arizona statutes that the parent is still the teacher of the student. Usually co-ops are in someone's home, a library or small public space, and there may be a small agreed on fee for supplies. I really recommend first assessing your child's learning style and your teaching style before jumping into a co-op. I have online joined a co-op, but not been formally a part of a co-op. We've been part of a lot of social groups that we have done PE classes with and field trips. Having other people teach your child, if you are the primary teacher of your child, then you are homeschooling. If you group up together with a lot of other parents, then you start going down the road of a private school. So you really want to make sure that you know what you are getting into, and make sure that you are following the homeschooling laws. Fun while homeschooling, yes, because homeschooling actually can be fun. It's more than just curriculum and getting everything done every single day. And I don't just churn butter and make my own clothes. We actually do go on field trips when there's not COVID. And actually, we've been on field trips too, even with COVID. We went to Meteor Crater this past week. You can be outside when it's not 120 degrees out. You could watch YouTube videos like how it's made, how it works, and dirty jobs. That's my youngest favorite to do. We explore things that the kids want to see and learn, like how house is built, and this is the perfect place to do that. Joining social groups when there's not COVID, going on vacations. We've gone on cruises and gone to some amazing places. Sports, again, with COVID, it's been a little bit harder. You can be closer with your family, and my kids have a great bond, and that's been a great thing with homeschooling is that my kids aren't annoyed with each other. I mean, they're annoyed with each other, but not always. They have a common bond. There's local places to do art with, and there's a lot of art studios, and PE. You don't have to do just running around the gym. There's baseball, ice skating, Tai Chi, dance, so many different things. You can learn languages online with Duolingo, Rosetta Stone. You could do it through native speaker using Zoom or other software, and you could find a local music lesson provider through Take Lessons or something else, and that's been an amazing thing for our family. So that's just some of the fun things that you could do while you're homeschooling. And we do a lot of crafts, which usually make a huge mess in our house. So and then we teach our kids how to clean up the mess too. So sports, music, and socialization. So in Arizona, children can try out for the school team they are districted for. For music, it's a little bit wonky. If it's a competition band, then they have to try out. If it's just a regular band, it's up to the school whether they're allowed to go in. So if it's competition, it acts like a sport where they have to try out. It's just how it is. Then I put across the country because I did present this for a bunch of different people across the country, and I'm presenting this again for a military network. So there's different homeschool groups like the Homeschool Sports Network, California Athletics for Homeschool, and gymnastics is also huge for homeschoolers. So there's this long link of how you can find places for kids to do sports. If your child is into doing sports for a scholarship, then of course you're going to want to try to get them into a school, but if your child is not going into sports for a scholarship, then you're just going to do it with a rec league. But if you're looking for a scholarship, then you're going to have to go through the high school. So that's just something to think about too. Socialization is so important. Groups and hanging out with kids, with friends that kids had before is amazing. My kids still hang out with their public school friends and with their homeschool friends that they had before. So, you know, just because you become a homeschooler doesn't mean you can't hang out with the public schoolers, and just because you're a public schooler doesn't mean you can't hang out with the others. You know, just keep it mixed up. You know, your kids will learn so much from other people. So I say, you know, just keep socializing. So with that, now it's your turn to ask that I blew through all of that so quickly. So I hope you caught all of that, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And I will take it off a screen share too.
Betty or Jennifer, did you have anything you'd like to ask? I have a couple of questions.
Not right now, no.
Okay. You have lots of questions. I know you do.
Oh, you know what? Once we're offline, I'll think of a million.
I know you will. I know you will. All right.
How old are you?
It was nice to learn a little bit more about homeschooling.
Yeah.
I'm a former teacher, so I know about
okay.
the charter schools and the regular schools. So
Yeah.
But
how old are your kids?
my kids? You mean my children kids?
Your children's kids. Okay. How old are they?
I'm not a homeschooler. My kids are grown.
Oh, okay.
I have a 28-year-old and a 32-year-old. So.
Oh, okay.
But I used to teach grades 4 through 6.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
And I've been tutoring for 2 years now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome.
I'm a tutor with Tutor Doctor.
Oh, awesome. It's nice to meet you.
Yes, it's great. And I'm hoping actually to work with families who are going to be doing homeschooling, because I think it's pretty common for this school year. A lot of families are, so.
Yeah, I agree. Vicki, I had seen her, I'd seen her in a different presentation, and, I was sharing, we've had a couple of conversations before this presentation, Betty, and we're definitely getting calls, inquiries online, people just calling out of the blue. I don't know where they're coming from, like toying around with the idea of homeschool, asking, well, can I just have a tutor come in? Can they just help? Like, it depends. Like, what are you going to do? Are you doing a curriculum? And a lot of people don't have an idea what's their basis going to be of the education look like in their home. So anyway, I thought this was really helpful, and I'm definitely going to share this across some of our business pages and our newsletter, because this doesn't seem to be something where you just dive into it. I mean, Betty, you know this from a lot of the parents that you've worked with. They don't have their own like home infrastructure to support homeschooling. Like, you cannot be working full-time at your job and just pop your kids over at the kitchen table, right, Vicki, and say, okay, go do your homeschool.
No, it's a lot of time for me invested to figure out what curriculum I want. Every Sunday I have to take everything and lay it out and put it together for my kids, and then even through that I have to change it up, and I go, okay, this isn't working for my kids. I reevaluate, and I'm like, okay, this isn't working. They're not responding, just like you would do in a classroom. And you realize that, okay, two tenths, half of the class isn't responding. I need to change up what I'm doing, and so I have to take it away and start fresh with something else.
Yeah.
What kind of oversight is there to make sure that the parent is the main educator? I mean, right. How would they know that they don't have a tutor in there with the kids all day long?
There is none in Arizona.
Okay, so essentially somebody could just hire a tutor to homeschool their children.
Yeah, and a lot of the homeschoolers are a little bit concerned about this because we've fought so hard for this right to homeschool.
Right.
Homeschoolers used to have to do a lot to get where we are. They had to take tests in order to prove that we were able to do this and legitimate. And now I'm afraid that we might be on a backward slide with this.
Right.
So it's a little bit scary. Like my background, I almost had my degree in early elementary ed. My dad came down with MS, and the same year that I ended up with a tick disease. So I ended up going back to Connecticut, and so I pretty much had to start over with my degree. So I take my praxis and all of the tests, but I had to basically start over with my degree to just go back home to Connecticut from Pennsylvania. So I had done almost everything for my early elementary degree. And I just wanted to get out of college because it was my senior year. So, I'd done all the teaching stuff, but, I know what it is like to be a teacher too. So it's hard.
You still get to do it.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's like, Vicki, teach my kids. I'm like, it's not legal.
There you go. I have a couple of questions, just things that have come at me along the way, and then some I just thought of as you were speaking. One of them was just in light of, like Betty had mentioned, people are now thinking, well, maybe I'll just do homeschool if my kids are going to be at home anyway.
Right.
I've got time. I only work part-time maybe. I think I could probably do homeschool. So you mentioned that homeschooling officially must start by age 8. So what do you do if you have a child who's like you said, fourth, fifth grade, and now the family wants to start homeschool? Is there any difference in the process?
No. So when they say it officially has to start by age 8, that means if your child has not been officially enrolled in any schooling, you actually have to start them in schooling. So if you decided that up until age 8, you didn't want to do anything with them and they wanted to sit and loaf around, you could do that. But at age 8, they have to, that's a hard stop. They have to start doing something at that point.
Got it.
Yeah.
You're shaking your head, Betty. Can't imagine that.
I can't imagine, thinking about, my kids were, reading at 5 and 6. I don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing. You actually have to sign a form that says that you will not start educating them until age 8. I'm like, you have to sign a form that says that you will not start educating them until age 8, but you have to do that at age 6. I don't know.
Are these the same parents that don't vaccinate, or who knows?
I have no idea. I'm just like, if you're signing the form, can you just, at age 6, can you just do it at 8? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the law.
That's interesting.
That's
the rule. We'll skip past that. So you can do it. You can make this decision at any time.
Yes.
You mentioned something about sports. So again, just business minded. We do tutor a lot of athletes, just because time is limited. Yes. So academics are important, both to stay on the sports team as well as to get into college, right? So it's those two things together. So you mentioned the kids that are doing homeschool, if they're thinking that they're college bound and they're also hoping for an athletic scholarship.
Right.
How do you get your kids back into public school if you started homeschooling?
So they have to try out for a team, just like they would at any other, as if they were going to public school. So they would have to call in and talk to the athletic director, and they have the right to do that. And they have to try out for the team, just as if they were going to public school. They have to go to their districted school. So I live in this, like if I live in Deer Valley, whatever school district, this is my home school. That's the school that I have to try out in.
Okay, I misunderstood. So they don't have to attend the school to play the sport. They just play the sport for the school and just simply try out.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Then I'm still going to split that question because I am aware of a couple of families where they want their kids to return to school. You know, they just, they can't, maybe they can't teach at the levels of math that the child is in. They have to return to work, but whatever the reason is, but they want to put their kids back into a school system. How do you do that? Do the kids have to test in?
So there's a possibility that they might have to test in. It depends on the school. If you keep a good transcript, then hopefully not, but you have to keep a good transcript. The key is keeping a good transcript of what the child has done. So that's really the key. So what math has the child done? What English has the child done? So keeping the transcript is really, really the key.
Okay. And like you had mentioned, if familiar with the Math UC program, so if you say like we did Math UC up through pre-algebra, and then the child is starting in 9th grade, if that's what they would be learning in 9th grade, you would just say this is what they did, and then they would just enter.
Yeah, they should.
I mean, depending upon the schools, if there was an overlay or something.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I've had friends who had their child enter and have had no problem and they haven't even questioned it. Okay.
And then skipping ahead, so let's say they do homeschool all the way through the equivalent of 12th grade, and now it's time for college. So, we work with a lot of those students too. Some of them are actually, all of them that are crossing our paths, they're taking the SAT and or the ACT. So that would just be normal. You would still take the standardized testing. Okay. And then this I don't know, and Betty can chime in too, like I don't know if this is a requirement or just an option for a family, but they were also taking the ALEX assessment to figure out which level of math. Okay. Is it a prerogative or is that a requirement? Do you know?
I'm not familiar with that test.
Okay. It's placement. It would be like math 141 or math 107 or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a new college test. Yeah. I'm guessing that would be based on the college if they want the college. The college wants them to take it. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the colleges have placement assessments that they have you take before you start school.
That makes sense.
I know the junior colleges definitely do.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've been in college. We won't talk about that.
Me too, but not too long ago, my son was applying to college, and now he's finished his master's degree, but
yeah.
And then the last one I had, you had mentioned that there are, it was on the slide where you were talking about IEPs. IEPs vary across kids, but you mentioned one in particular with children with autism, and that there are a lot of autism networks. That's another thing I'm seeing a lot. I shouldn't say just because of the pandemic. It's not just that. I mean, there are parents that have been wondering and struggling for years, are their kids getting the support they need in a public school setting, in a private school setting? It doesn't really matter. Are you able to give a couple of the networks you were thinking of?
Let me look it up real quick.
And that was my last question for you.
Yeah, Autism Society of Greater Phoenix. And it's phoenixautism.org. And they've had great events usually throughout the year. They have a West Valley and an East Valley branch. And in the past, I've worked with them promoting events. They like a Santa Christmas thing. I mean, they've had so many wonderful events throughout the year. And they do stuff, backpack drives, back to school drives. I mean, they've had so many things, like I can't even remember everything that they've done throughout the years. Social gatherings during, the cooler months for families. Yeah, I can't remember everything, but they've just had such a wonderful setup for not just the children themselves, but the families too. So that's a great resource.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah. So, and it's a network too. And they have Facebook pages and groups too, so that the families can talk about resources. And I think that's a great place for families to go, especially right now, if they're not getting the services that they need, so that at least they can talk to each other and figure out what they can do.
Yeah, exactly. What can they supplement at home, or maybe they don't realize that there are other schools that their children could attend where they're getting those services and the needs met.
Right, exactly.
And a lot of these parents don't know too, because I had a daughter that she's very gifted, and she was, but she also had difficulties in elementary school. She was on an IEP. If you're not being serviced by your school too, you can hire, there are special attorneys that can make sure. And I had to 1 year.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, my daughter in the Kyrene School District of all districts, which is an excellent school district, was not getting the services she needed, and I had to hire an attorney.
Yeah, I've recommended that to some people. Like, there's the court mediators,
Yes.
and people don't realize that's available. And because I had to do that with the juvenile court, and were available, I have that knowledge. So it's been interesting. It's a little bits here and there that I've learned.
Yeah, you have a lot of knowledge and experience, and I really appreciate that you have been like on both sides of this homeschool experience. It's refreshing to hear. I mean, truthfully, I've had some ignorance toward it myself. I thought you either are a homeschool family or you're not. I don't know why. I have no idea why I had that notion, but I did. But I mean, just seeing you've crossed and then you've come back.
Yeah.
And now you're sharing what you've learned from the other sides.
I've worn my jean skirt and
right, don't say that. That's
just joking.
No, but I really do appreciate it. I mean, this is very helpful information. I look forward to partnering with you and sharing this so that people can get their questions answered.
Absolutely.
And then, just generally speaking, I guess if parents have questions, do you suggest just kind of directing them to the slides that you have, or do you have your own Facebook group or something where you would suggest that we direct people?
Yeah, they could reach out to me at Vicki at surpriseazmom.com. It's no matter which way you spell it, it'll come to me, but it's VICKI at surpriseazmom.com, and I'll try to get back to you, or you can go on my Facebook page at surpriseazmom.com. And if I don't know the answer, because I don't know everything, I'll figure out a way of finding out the information for you or directing you to it, because I'm constantly learning too. I don't know everything, but I'll help you figure it out, and then I'll know something more too. So I'm happy to learn as well.
It's education. We're always learning.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a pleasure meeting you, Betty, too.
Oh, it was nice meeting you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for joining. Have a good night. And Vicki, again, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation.